Was it really just a tragic accident? Or something more sinister? What if I told you some of the most beloved musicians in history might not have died the way we were told? Number 10. Did the CIA assassinate Bob Marley? Could the American government have killed the reggae legend? In 1976, Bob Marley survived an assassination attempt at his home in Jamaica. Unknown gunmen stormed his house, shooting Marley, his wife, and his manager. Miraculously, everyone survived. But what followed has fueled conspiracy theories for decades. Shortly after the attempt on his life, Marley received a pair of boots as a gift. When he tried them on, he felt something prick his toe. According to conspiracy theorists, this seemingly innocent gift contained a copper wire that had been dipped in carcinogenic substances. This theory suggests that the CIA was behind this sophisticated assassination method, as they viewed Marley's growing political influence as a threat. In 1977, doctors discovered malignant melanoma in Marley's toe, the very same toe that had been pricked. He initially refused amputation due to his Rastafarian beliefs, and the cancer eventually spread throughout his body, leading to his death in 1981 at just 36 years old. CIA documents released years later revealed the agency had indeed been monitoring Marley, concerned about his influence and political connections in Jamaica during the Cold War. While mainstream medical experts explain that melanoma can develop naturally and that Marley's cancer likely had nothing to do with any copper wire, many fans remain convinced that his cancer diagnosis was far from natural. Former CIA agent Bill Oxley allegedly made a deathbed confession claiming responsibility for Marley's death, though the authenticity of this confession has been widely disputed and debunked. Number 9. Was Michael Jackson's death orchestrated by the music industry? Did the king of pop become more valuable dead than alive? Michael Jackson died on June 25, 2009, from an overdose of propofol administered by his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. Murray was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. But some fans believe there was a more calculated plot behind the pop star's death. In the years before his death, Jackson was facing financial troubles despite his massive success. He had accumulated significant debt and was planning a comeback tour titled This Is It. Conspiracy theorists point to the massive financial windfall that followed Jackson's death as evidence of foul play. In the years after his passing, Jackson's estate earned billions of dollars from posthumous album releases, merchandise, and the documentary, This Is It. Some theorists believe record executives or even members of Jackson's inner circle orchestrated his death to cash in on his legacy. They point to the suspicious timing, just weeks before his tour was set to begin, and claim that insurance policies and posthumous revenue streams made Jackson worth more dead than alive. Adding fuel to the conspiracy fire, Jackson himself had expressed fears for his life in the months leading up to his death. In letters to friends, he wrote that he felt certain people were trying to kill him to gain control of his music catalog. His daughter Paris has also suggested that her father was murdered, saying in interviews that he would drop hints about people being out to get him. The official investigation found no evidence of conspiracy, concluding that Dr. Murray's negligence was responsible for Jackson's death. Nevertheless, the dramatic increase in the value of Jackson's estate following his death continues to raise eyebrows among skeptics. Number 8. Was Jimi Hendrix murdered by his manager? Could one of rock's greatest guitarists have been killed by someone he trusted? Jimi Hendrix died on September 18, 1970, at the age of 27. The official cause of death was asphyxiation from choking on his own vomit after taking barbiturates. But former roadie James "Tappy" Wright made shocking claims in his 2009 book Rock Roadie that have kept conspiracy theories alive. According to Wright, Hendrix's manager Michael Jeffery confessed to him in 1971 that he had murdered Hendrix. Wright claims Jeffery told him he plied Hendrix with pills and alcohol, then stuffed pills down his throat and poured red wine into his lungs. The alleged motive: a $2 million life insurance policy Jeffery had taken out on Hendrix, with himself as the beneficiary. Adding to the suspicion, Jeffery and Hendrix had a strained relationship at the time of the guitarist's death. Hendrix was reportedly planning to end their professional relationship. Some theorists suggest Jeffery feared losing his most valuable client and the income he generated. The medical evidence offers conflicting information. The original autopsy found very little alcohol in Hendrix's system, yet his body was reportedly soaked in wine. The doctor who initially examined Hendrix noted he had drowned in a significant amount of red wine, with wine-soaked hair and clothes. However, Hendrix's girlfriend Monica Dannemann's account changed several times over the years about what happened that night. In a strange twist, Jeffery himself died in a plane crash in 1973, taking any potential confession or denial to the grave. The lack of a thorough police investigation at the time of Hendrix's death has only added to the mystery, as authorities quickly classified it as an accidental overdose without much scrutiny. Number 7. Did Tupac Shakur fake his own death? Is the legendary rapper still alive somewhere? On September 7, 1996, Tupac Shakur was shot multiple times in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. He died 6 days later from his injuries, or did he? For decades, fans have insisted that Tupac faked his death and has been living in hiding. This conspiracy theory has remarkable staying power, with alleged Tupac sightings reported everywhere from Cuba to New Zealand. Believers point to several peculiar circumstances surrounding his death. For one, no murder suspect has ever been charged, despite the shooting taking place on a busy Las Vegas strip. Additionally, his body was cremated just 1 day after his death, with no public funeral. The numerology surrounding Tupac's death also feeds into conspiracy theories. He was 25 when he died, and 2 + 5 = 7. He was shot on September 7th and died on September 13th. 1 + 3 = 4, and 7 + 4 = 11. His first album after death, released under the alias Machiavelli, references Machiavelli, the Italian philosopher who allegedly faked his own death to evade enemies. Tupac's final album, The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, released after his death, features cover art depicting him crucified, with Suge, Death Row Records founder Suge Knight listed as executive producer rather than producer. Some interpret this as symbolic of Knight helping Tupac escape death. In his song Life Goes On, Tupac rapped about his own funeral. Other lyrics from songs recorded shortly before his death contain what some believe are clues about faking his death. Multiple photos and videos have emerged over the years purporting to show Tupac alive after 1996, though experts have debunked most of these as lookalikes or digital manipulations. The most rational explanation for Tupac's unsolved murder involves gang rivalries and the East Coast-West Coast hip-hop feud of the 1990s. Yet the legend of his survival persists, making it one of music's most enduring conspiracy theories. Number 6. Was Kurt Cobain's suicide actually murder? Did someone else pull the trigger? Kurt Cobain, the frontman of Nirvana, was found dead on April 8, 1994, at his home in Seattle. The official ruling was suicide by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A suicide note was found at the scene, case closed. Not for many fans and even some investigators. Private investigator Tom Grant, hired by Cobain's wife Courtney Love to find Kurt when he went missing days before his death, became the most prominent voice questioning the suicide ruling. Grant claims the suicide note was actually a letter about Cobain leaving the band and possibly divorcing Love, with only the last few lines appearing to reference suicide. Grant believes these lines may have been added by someone else. Physical evidence raises questions too. The amount of heroin in Cobain's system was 3 times the lethal dose for even a heavy user. Medical experts question whether someone with that much heroin in their bloodstream would have the physical capability to pick up and fire a shotgun. The positioning of the shotgun, the lack of fingerprints on the weapon, and the absence of gunpowder residue on Cobain's hands have all been cited by conspiracy theorists. Additionally, Cobain's credit card was allegedly used after his supposed death date, and there were reported sightings of him in the days between his escape from rehab and the discovery of his body. The documentary Soaked in Bleach presents Grant's case that love may have been involved in Cobain's death. Proposed motives include financial gain from Cobain's estate, fear of impending divorce, or preventing him from leaving the music industry. Love has vehemently denied these allegations and has threatened legal action against those promoting murder theories. Seattle police reviewed the case in 2014 upon the 20th anniversary of Cobain's death and maintained that the evidence supported the original suicide finding. Nevertheless, the questions surrounding the forensic evidence continue to fuel speculation decades later. Number 5 was Elvis Presley's death faked. Is the king still among us? Elvis Presley was pronounced dead on August 16, 1977, at his Graceland mansion in Memphis, Tennessee. The cause of death was officially recorded as a heart attack, though it's widely accepted that his poor health and prescription drug abuse contributed significantly. But an extraordinary number of people believe Elvis never died at all. The first reported Elvis sighting came just hours after his funeral, when a man resembling Elvis was spotted at the Memphis airport boarding a flight to Buenos Aires. Since then, thousands of sightings have been reported worldwide. Conspiracy theorists point to several suspicious elements surrounding his death. First, Elvis's middle name was misspelled as Aaron instead of Aaron on his tombstone, a mistake they claim the real Elvis would never have allowed. Second, his coffin reportedly weighed 900 pounds, unusually heavy even for a copper coffin, leading to speculation it contained a cooling system or was filled with wax to simulate a body. Third, no photographs were taken of Elvis in his coffin, unusual for such a high-profile death. The most bizarre claim is that Elvis appears as an extra in the 1990 movie Home Alone, visible in a scene where Kevin's mother is arguing with an airline ticket agent. While facial recognition experts have dismissed this as a case of coincidental resemblance, die-hard believers remain convinced. Why would Elvis fake his death? Theories range from escaping the pressures of fame to avoiding threats from the mafia. Some suggest he entered the witness protection program after helping the FBI with investigations into organized crime in the entertainment industry. There are even claims that he became an undercover DEA agent, using his experience with prescription drugs to help fight drug trafficking. Family members and friends of Elvis have consistently denied these theories, and Elvis's daughter Lisa Marie Presley described visiting his body before the funeral. Medical examiners who performed the autopsy have confirmed his identity, and DNA tests on samples preserved from the autopsy matched that of Elvis's known relatives. Number 4, did Jim Morrison escape to France to live as a poet? Is the Lizard King still alive? Jim Morrison, legendary frontman of The Doors, allegedly died of heart failure in a bathtub in Paris on July 3, 1971. No autopsy was performed because French law didn't require one when no foul play was suspected. His girlfriend Pamela Courson was the only person who saw his body before the sealed casket funeral, and she herself died of a heroin overdose 3 years later. These circumstances created the perfect storm for conspiracy theories. The most persistent claim is that Morrison faked his death to escape his rock star lifestyle and the legal troubles that were mounting against him in the United States. At the time of his supposed death, he was facing a possible prison sentence for indecent exposure at a 1969 concert in Miami. Several Doors associates have fueled these theories. The band's publicist Danny Sugerman claimed to have met Morrison in Paris years after his alleged death. Doors keyboardist Ray Manzarek made cryptic statements in interviews suggesting Morrison may have staged his death, though he later walked back these claims. The lack of witnesses is particularly suspicious to conspiracy theorists. Only Courson was present when Morrison supposedly died. No medical professional confirmed the cause of death, and the doctor who signed the death certificate had never met Morrison before. No photographs were taken of the body, and only a handful of people attended his quiet funeral at Père Lachaise Cemetery. Morrison himself may have inadvertently contributed to these theories. In the months before his death, he repeatedly told friends he was considering faking his death and living anonymously as a poet in Africa. He frequently mentioned the 27 Club, famous musicians who died at age 27, and allegedly told people, "You can either die young and leave a beautiful corpse or live a long life and leave an old shriveled one." Some believe Morrison relocated to the Seychelles Islands, while others claim he returned to the United States under a new identity. Alleged sightings continue to this day, though none have been verified. Authorities have consistently refused requests to exhume Morrison's body, leaving the mystery intact. Number 3, was John Lennon's murder a government conspiracy? Could the beloved Beatle have been eliminated by the CIA? On December 8, 1980, Mark David Chapman shot and killed John Lennon outside his New York City apartment building. Chapman remained at the scene, reading The Catcher in the Rye, until police arrived. He pleaded guilty to murder and has been in prison ever since. But some believe Chapman was just a programmed patsy in a larger conspiracy. According to this theory, Lennon's outspoken political activism and anti-war stance made him a target of the US government. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Lennon participated in numerous protests against the Vietnam War and was a vocal advocate for peace. FBI files released years later confirmed that the agency had indeed been monitoring Lennon's activities during the Nixon administration, viewing him as a potential threat to national security. Conspiracy theorists point to Chapman's behavior as evidence of mind control. Before the murder, Chapman had no history of violence and was a devoted fan of Lennon. His sudden transformation into an assassin, coupled with his zombie-like state after the shooting, has led some to believe he was programmed using MK-Ultra-type techniques, a real CIA mind control program that operated from the 1950s to the 1970s. The phrase, "The Catcher in the Rye," is allegedly a trigger phrase used in mind control programming, and Chapman's fixation on the book is seen as evidence of this. Additionally, Chapman's ability to afford international travel despite having a modest job as a security guard has raised questions about who might have been financing his movements. Another suspicious element is that Chapman received unusual treatment in the criminal justice system. Despite killing one of the most famous men in the world, he avoided a trial by pleading guilty, preventing any public examination of his motives or mental state. He has been denied parole multiple times, allegedly to prevent him from potentially revealing any information about his programming or handlers. Stephen King, the famous author, was also bizarrely connected to the conspiracy through claiming that one of his stories might have inspired Chapman, leading some to believe King himself may have been involved in programming Chapman. Number 2, did Illuminati sacrifice Whitney Houston? Was the superstar singer killed as part of a dark ritual? Whitney Houston drowned in her bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel on February 11, 2012, with heart disease and cocaine use contributing to her death. The timing and location of her death sparked one of the more outlandish conspiracy theories in music history. Houston died the day before the Grammy Awards, and a pre-Grammy party was being hosted by her mentor Clive Davis in the same hotel where she died, and continued even after her body was discovered. Conspiracy theorists claim this wasn't a coincidence, but rather a planned sacrifice by the Illuminati, the purported secret society that some believe controls the entertainment industry. According to this theory, Houston was killed because she had either tried to leave the Illuminati or had threatened to expose its secrets. Proponents point to symbolic elements surrounding her death, such as the bathtub representing ritual purification and the timing before a major music industry event, maximizing the emotional impact on the public. Some theorists connect her death to that of her daughter Bobby Christina Brown, who died 3 years later in eerily similar circumstances, also found unconscious in a bathtub. This parallel is cited as evidence of a generational curse or sacrifice. Videos of Houston in the days before her death show her appearing disoriented and disheveled, which conspiracy theorists interpret as signs of mind control breaking down or her being drugged in preparation for the sacrifice. A mysterious man who allegedly followed Houston in her final days has never been identified, adding to the intrigue. Supporters of this theory also point to Houston's final performance 2 days before her death, where she sang "Jesus Loves Me," interpreted by some as her final declaration of faith before her orchestrated death. They claim that bruises found on her body indicate a struggle rather than an accidental drowning. The more mundane explanation that Houston's well-documented struggle with drug addiction led to her accidental death is supported by the official autopsy. Toxicology reports confirmed cocaine use, and prescription medications were found in her hotel room. The Los Angeles County coroner ruled her death as accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use as contributing factors. Number 1, is Paul McCartney actually dead since 1966? Could one of the most famous musicians alive today actually be an imposter? The Paul is dead conspiracy theory is perhaps the most famous and elaborate music death conspiracy of all time. It claims that Paul McCartney died in a car crash in November 1966 and was replaced by a lookalike named William Campbell, or sometimes Billy Shears, who has been masquerading as McCartney ever since. According to the theory, the other Beatles couldn't bear to tell fans about Paul's death for fear of mass suicides among devastated teenagers. Instead, they hinted at the truth through subtle clues in their album artwork and song lyrics. The rumor exploded in 1969 when a college newspaper published an article titled "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Dead?" detailing supposed clues hidden in Beatles records. Abbey Road's album cover is the most cited evidence. It supposedly depicts a funeral procession. John in white represents the clergyman, Ringo in black is the mourner, Paul is barefoot, a traditional burial preparation, and out of step with the others, and George in denim represents the gravedigger. The Volkswagen Beetle in the background has a license plate reading 28IF, allegedly meaning Paul would be 28 if he were still alive. The cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reportedly contains numerous death clues. The Beatles appear to be standing over a grave with flowers spelling out PAUL. A hand is raised over McCartney's head, allegedly a symbol of death in some Eastern cultures. On the back cover, McCartney is the only one facing backward, and a mysterious figure with McCartney's distinctive height and hairstyle has his back to the camera. Song lyrics also supposedly contain hints. A Day in the Life includes the lines "He blew his mind out in a car" and references somebody who made the grade, interpreted as a car crash victim. At the end of Strawberry Fields Forever, John allegedly whispers, "I buried Paul." In Revolution 9, when played backward, listeners claim to hear "Turn Me On, Dead Man." The new Paul supposedly had different physical characteristics. Conspiracy theorists point to differences in McCartney's height, voice, and even ear shape in photos from before and after 1966. They claim the replacement underwent plastic surgery but couldn't perfectly match the original. McCartney himself has addressed the rumor with good humor over the years, even titling his 1993 live album Paul is Live, a play on the Paul is Dead rumors. On an episode of Carpool Karaoke with James Corden, he visited the famous zebra crossing from Abbey Road, joking about the conspiracy theory. Could this extraordinary cover-up have been maintained for over 50 years? Who profits from continuing this elaborate charade? And if the real Paul McCartney did die in 1966, doesn't his replacement deserve credit for creating some of the most beloved music of all time?